Greetings, fellow geeks, and welcome to Pretend Low Earth Orbit for transmission number 653 of Geeks in Space. I'm Rob Commander Takamulda, and am, as ever, joined by my fellow pseudo-space dwellers, Rob Roseboom.
Hello.
And Chris DeBona.
Hi.
Gentlemen, it's been an incredibly August.
Been quite a week.
Yeah.
Indeed.
Now,
only one more day of August, then we can go into the fun that is back to school news.
Oh yeah, that's great. Well, at least then colleges start doing press releases and things happen again.
That's true.
But we did have this week the most interesting rocket launch that maybe I've ever seen.
Yeah, you're not wrong.
Sorry to both podcast listeners. The Aster rocket that went up a couple of days ago had a little bit of an issue. You should go to the Taco Zone and watch it. But we're going to look at it now.
Look at this spot right here. You'll see a little panel go kaplooey like this. And then things get interesting. Ready? Here we go.
Whee!
I mean...
You know what I'll say?
2.25 seconds later, they blew it in the sky because it was not going anywhere good. So good on NASA. Whoever created the gimbal control system on this son bitch, what an engineer.
Right?
You know, like he's like, okay, oh, things are different. That's okay. I'll get us up in the air at least.
Yep,
you know?
I'm still going up. You can't stop me from going up.
You know, boom, oh.
But man, that thing shot over, what, a quarter mile in like a couple seconds?
Yeah. It was a hell of a launch.
That's quite a hook they have on that one right there.
It's like
that's a golf term.
Driver's ed.
Wow.
Yeah, that's extraordinary. I've watched that video a lot of times, and
it's a heck of a video, and the slow motion of the thing going bluey in the bottom.
I wish that they didn't have all the clouds there for that first shot, because I would really like to see how far it goes. But I gotta go out on a limb here and say the camera that is pointed at that launch wasn't ready to pan right. We haven't trained for the zip pan.
That's not part of the mission plan.
Nope.
Blow a big hole in the side of your rocket and go right. You know.
If that happens, you have other problems.
So good times.
Good times. Arby's is selling Dungeons and Dragons dice. That just made me giggle.
I did not know this.
That just made me giggle that that's a thing now. And it's totally dumb, and apparently they sold out, but it's literally just a set of polyhedral.
I'm sorry, they look
dice.
really cool.
You should switch tabs.
Are they battered with Southwest sauce?
That's what I wondered.
I'm going to the shop. Wow. These are good looking dice, I gotta say.
They've got the
little weights on the inside to keep them even.
Yeah. They got the Arbys logo all over them. But I mean, whatever. I mean, that's just, I've seen a lot of weird marketing campaigns over the years, but you know, custom polyhedral dice. All right, fine, cool, do it.
No.
Well, what they say is that you asked for them. Nobody asked. Nobody asked for Arbys Dice.
The IT
know
guy.
Your audience. Know your audience.
Yeah.
That's what this is.
Oh, yeah. But, I mean, nobody asked. But this is cool.
If you were to sell Mountain Dew polyhedrals or Pringles polyhedrals, I feel you could do Doritos. Yeah. You could do really well.
Doritos.
And Doritos actually have like a built-in color scheme that's incredibly recognizable.
And isn't a Dorito just a two-sided dice? Really? You know?
That's right. The licked side and the not licked side.
And if you get a nat zero, you can just eat it fast and not tell anyone.
I will say the beef and cheddar gets a little nasty after 3 or 4 rolls.
Gross.
There's a whole Arby's shop.
Well, they got a bucket hat.
They got a bucket. They have a 10-gallon hat.
Wow.
Because didn't they used to use...
that was like their logo.
Yeah, that was like their logo.
It's still their logo, apparently.
They have Arby. These are like the clothes out of Idiocracy with all the corporate logos on them and stuff.
Oh, for sure.
Sun's out, buns out.
Yeah.
Well, or
okay. Can I say something? Maybe they don't know their audience very well.
Maybe they're spot on.
They're only topping out at extra large, man.
Mm.
Let's see if the other shirts go. Yeah. Okay. All right. We have 2X here. Start, but they should invest in larger
Add
sizes.
more X's.
Yep.
This also reminds me of the kind of clothing that you see on like, refugees from certain places. You know how like
yeah.
when they do the Super Bowl, they run both lines of T-shirts just so they have enough. And whatever team doesn't win, those T-shirts end up being on African children.
Yeah, exactly. They put them on a quick flight to Africa to get rid of them.
Yeah.
I remember vividly growing up in my household, we were a very big Pistons supporting household as we were in Michigan. And I just remember that one of the kids that I knew got his hands on a Pistons World Championship t-shirt from a year that I guess they lost. And that was always a source of weird pride to him.
That's really funny.
So, the Russian cosmonauts have found new cracks. But this is in the Zarya module, not in the...
Is that a newer one?
That's one of the old ones.
Yeah, that's one of the first ones, right?
Yeah. So it wasn't the Zauka, I think is the new one.
I have to be honest with you.
Sveta,
We're hitting the end of life for this station.
Well, that's what they're saying, you know?
It wasn't supposed to be up this long, and I think that the Russians, so I will say the way NASA engineers is very oriented at don't do anything that's going to keep you from lasting. But maybe the Russians have a different aesthetic, and they're like, "This will last 20 years."
Or maybe they just have like an insurance policy and they're shorting it.
Maybe.
Maybe it's that if it explodes, they can blame somebody. But if it just sort of degrades, then they feel dumb.
I think this is a fantastic opportunity for Arby's.
Oh.
Let me explain. Arby's could ship up some tangy cheese sauce.
They could slide up.
Oh, that's good. That's sliders. Yeah,
yep,
I get it. No, I was thinking like they could have some cheese and in foam form, and as it is attracted to the cracks, it would seal the crack. Their epoxy cheese solution.
Cheese resin.
Thanks, Arby's.
Cheese resin. Is that cheesin?
Cheese chapoxy.
It's hard to get it to
maybe more Chipotle, right?
Yeah,
maybe Chipotle wants the contract.
Well, they can sponsor the Chinese space station. And they're gonna be like a
Why?
rival.
Are they popular in Chinese?
I don't know.
In China?
I feel that they're gonna need epoxy too, right?
Oh, well, no, I was saying if Chipotle doesn't win that contract, they could probably get some military contract.
Kind of like the best dig that I saw on astronomy-ish Twitter recently was that Jeff Bezos quit his full-time job at Amazon to take on a new full-time job of filing lawsuits against SpaceX.
Well, so there's that part of me. So I understand a little bit about government contract.
Yeah.
Genetically.
Like it's corrupt.
Well, no. I mean, they specifically need a competitive landscape for launcher services. And
I like that you kind of half finger quoted competitive.
Well, it's kind of, so let's be clear. This is a special kind of socialism that we do for military contractors.
Yep.
Right. And for all they're like, oh, we don't like socialism. It's like, unless it's helping Lockheed and Northrop Grumman and Raytheon and Boeing and SpaceX.
There's a reason it took 20 years to get out of
SpaceX.
Afghanistan.
I mean, it's really true. So it's like, people getting upset that Jeff Bezos understands government contracting a little bit.
Ooh, like, how dare he?
And whenever and I've said this before in the show, when one player wins, like a Lockheed or whatever wins, the first thing that happens is a suit is brought from the loser saying the person did something wrong and all the rest. And then the winner says, oh, no, you're going to be our secondary contractor on the following modules, the engines.
And that's why you end up with like the Saturn launches where one contractor builds the first stage and another contractor builds the second stage.
That's right.
It's almost like
you've
it's
got
a game.
Boeing making the thing on the top with the crew in it. You've got
it's weird
how
it's weird how each of those corporations that have each of those modules have a senator from a different state.
A different state, you say?
Yeah, like somebody else whose vote could be swayed somehow.
But wait, they're all for the United States, right?
That's right. Well, I mean, except Florida.
Aren't we united?
In our hatred of Florida.
No, Florida's where we have the Cape, so everything goes to Florida.
That's true.
So for all the teasing of Florida, there's a lot of important stuff in Florida.
For sure.
that when it becomes underwater from the rapture that's happening.
The rapture's happening. Rapture watch.
All right, apocalypse, right? But yeah, have like a cool graphic like rapture watch. You know, because like we have fires, we have earthquakes, we have pestilence, we have famine. It's kind of, we're getting all the bases, you know, and I'm prepared to show picture.
All right, rapture watch. Do it.
Rapture watch.
All right.
First of all, here's the Caldor fire, which has made the town of South Lake Tahoe and points west evacuate. This is the Sierra Tahoe ski resort.
Looks safe.
Not safe, but you know, they're using their snow guns to pump water and protect the lodges and some of the machinery, but they still lost a pretty big collection of their machine shop. So yeah, look at that picture. I mean, that's the rapture right there. As a skier, this pains me to see. So that's fire.
That's fire.
So we have fires throughout the West Coast, pushing smoke into the center of the country. We have skyscrapers being destroyed in Italy. You know, so here's that picture. Oh. You pointed this out to me as being very exciting. So, oops, fire. Oop. Then we've got earthquakes in Haiti. Yeah, Haiti. Remember Haiti, the big earthquake? There's been a new one, right? And now we have, of course, pestilence. All of our ICU beds are filling up, and real procedures are being delayed for all these anti-vaxxing ivermectin injecting dummies.
Right.
And then we have murder hornets. Murder hornets coming back. You thought they were gone, but no, we got some murder hornets. And finally, yep, turns out Madagascar is on the brink of a climate change-induced famine. And keep in mind, those of you who like donuts, where does our vanilla come from? Either a lab or Madagascar.
But what about vanilla Coke?
Right? So the apocalypse will not have donuts. Yes, Rob.
Also, I've seen pictures of cats and dogs living together recently.
What?
Oh, I saw a cat and an owl.
And I have it on good authority that the Midgard serpent has released its tail.
Oh my God.
So, you know, it's beginning for sure.
Excellent,
well,
guys.
Normally you would spray a misbehaving dog with some water, but that's not something you can do in Mendocino County where they're running out of water. Same thing with Mexico City. Same thing with, I'm sure, Jackson, Michigan.
Because, so guys, I'm just, let's pat each other on the back. It's all coming together. We did it.
We did it.
We did it, guys.
We're bringing the end of the world.
Yeah. It's going to be fine.
So that's today's Rapture Watch.
That's right. Rapture Watch.
Apocalypse Watch.
We should rig up. I turned off my Invincible logo. I could make an Invincible flash for Apocalypse Watch.
Apocalypse Watch.
So
we should have been better prepared.
Well, we did decide to talk about the apocalypse about 30 seconds before we pressed stream.
Really, but society made the decision for us.
That's true. Our impact is relatively insignificant. But,
and for the young people in China, the worst possible apocalypse.
Oh, this is crazy. So China is now banning online gaming for children under the age of 18, except for from 8 p.m. to 9 p.m. on weekends.
Yeah.
So Korea just lifted their ban on underage gaming. Like, I think last week or the week before.
Shutdown law.
That's interesting. We have to protect the kids.
I mean, I get it.
Weren't people dying in Korea of like DVTs from sitting and playing League of Legends too long? So.
There were a couple ones I saw people dying in like internet cafes because they hadn't eaten or drank in so long.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess.
But I mean, that I assume if you search hard enough, you can find that here as well.
I'm sure. The difference is that here they're probably just doing it in mom's basement.
Yeah.
And I say that like not like mockingly. That's probably exactly what's happening.
That's where I got my start.
Mom's basement?
Well, we had a lower level. It was a split level house, and that's where the computer was.
Yeah. I had a 286 in my basement. But I wasn't gaming. I wasn't gaming. I was
gaming from day one.
I was coding,
programming, and I was having fun and coding. I ran a PPS. Blah blah blah.
I did all that shit too, man. 7th grade.
You sneeze, Roseboom? Was that a sneeze, man?
No.
Oh.
That was just a bow.
I was gonna say Gesundheit.
He was honoring you with his bow.
Mm.
Yeah, I mean, 3 hours a week. So my parents were actually pretty strict with TV and such, but they were not strict with my computer. And they definitely didn't understand that I could play things online. I mean, obviously, it's like 1988. But they did. I think I've told you this before. They stole one time when I was grounded. My mom took my keyboard away from me. She just took it right off my computer, so that I couldn't have my computer anymore, and locked it in her trunk. So I went to my friend's house and dialed into my BBS.
Also, so.
Theranos.
Elizabeth Holmes trial starts this week, I think. So.
She's
going to play it off as
she's going to blame the boyfriend.
Yeah. And Boys is just, if you read that Bad Blood book by John Carreyrou about this, Boys comes off as the biggest jerk, the biggest criminal a-hole.
Neither of them came off well in the documentary.
Oh boy, they came off poorly.
To be honest, I haven't followed or dug very closely into what their defense is about everything.
I think they're going to go with the Arbys defense. She had a really bad Arby's, so that made her lie and rip people off.
Yep. It's imposter syndrome gone awry.
Yeah, it's just fraud, and so the thing about this is it's actually pretty boring. She ripped a lot of people off, a lot of rich people, and usually when you rip these kinds of rich people off, they don't talk about it because they're embarrassed. But she ripped off enough people, it got too big that their embarrassment didn't matter anymore.
Well, and there's some weird names on her investor list too.
Draper and Mattis and
yeah. So there was big deal names on that list, and that seems weird. Also, it's the thing that always kind of gets me is that whenever you talk to experts in that field, they're just what they're describing is essentially voodoo magic level.
Yeah.
It's kind of not possible, and without really extraordinary breakthroughs that nobody ever got to see.
Well, I'll tell you though, when it was happening, okay, I remember driving by Theranos on Page Mill Road and thinking, boy, they're really successful, because there's all these stories about her and how she's worth $1 billion and how she's attracted a $9 billion valuation for her company. And so I looked into it and, because I have a couple of connections, maybe I could buy some stock. And I was like, no, I probably can't. I don't have that kind of influence. And then I realized, I was like, wait a second, what did they do? And I looked at what they did and I was like, yeah, that doesn't make a lot of sense. So maybe it was sour grapes on my part, but I was like, boy, they talk about a lot of things, but this isn't even the popular mechanics level of explanation of what they do. And I'm just going to watch this one from the side. And I asked a friend of mine who's really high up over 23andMe. I was like, so what's the story with Theranos? And they're like, yeah, I don't like to speak badly about women entrepreneurs.
But
I'm like, okay,
I
get it. Because 23andMe spent so much time talking about their process and what they do with the data, and they had a lot of problems with the FDA, right? But they were trying to roll with it and trying to keep the business going, and it's trying to have a productive conversation with the regulator. And then there's Theranos, who's out there promising they can detect cancers that couldn't be detected on your desktop, on your phone,
in a machine the size of a laser printer.
I feel like a lot of the problem with 23andMe is just due to that science is just new enough yet that there very well might be useful information as far as your medical conditions that we can pinpoint from your DNA. We just don't know for sure yet. And that's kind of where they ran into some problems. It's weird when companies like this go. A couple of years ago, a company called DNA Diagnostics suffered sort of the same problem. They pretty much did the DNA test for all reality shows, basically, and were successful enough that they started getting work from other law enforcement agencies and such. And then the head of it this lady called Melba Ketchum, I think was her name.
Okay.
She decided that she had the evidence that Bigfoot was real.
Oh no.
So they're the ones who ran the big DNA sequencing of Bigfoot. No scientific paper would publish it, so they made their own scientific paper, published the results to show that, wow, that Bigfoot is real, that we have his DNA profile, and then other, I know just enough about it to sort of understand what's going on, but DNA has come a long way since my advanced bio classes. But basically, they were using from what I understand, a data set of like 6,000 to 32,000 matches, when like real DNA sets use millions to determine things.
Enough.
So they proved that Bigfoot was half person, half hominid, just as much as they proved that it was also composed of opossum droppings and dog hair.
Mostly pudding.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah, so she absolutely ruined that company.
Well, it's funny, so I've given actually a fair amount of blood, right? And one of the things that always sticks in my head is they always they always use that initial, I don't know, half a cup or whatever for the testing of the blood to make sure you're not giving people, diseases or whatever. And I was always like, wow, it's like, it seems like a lot of blood.
It's a lot.
But they fill up like 4 cylinders, for testing and then verification, and test tubes. And one of the gals like, yeah, the thing is, the first blood you get out of an arm, it's got all the crap on it, all the rest. I'm like, oh, okay, that's pretty interesting. I sort of thought of it like the heads and tails when you distill alcohol, like you gotta get rid of the bad stuff, and
it's like pouring off the foam when you're taking the beer out of a keg.
Exactly, right? And then Theranos pops up and they're like, oh, this is so revolutionary. Yeah, we don't have any problems like that. You just stick your finger in. I'm like, people's fingers are disgusting. It's like, you're gonna tell me that you're not getting any of that crap.
That's the next sign of the apocalypse.
Oh, good.
People's fingers are disgusting.
Oh, Theranos was the first seal on the 7 seals.
Oh.
Mm-hmm. So the other thing I want to point out is she had such a weird collection of investors. You mentioned this earlier, but so this is one of her investors, Tim Draper. Tim Draper, and this is an underseen video. So Tim Draper was given an award for giving the most VC money to women entrepreneurs some year. And the way he celebrated it was with a video message to Kara Swisher at the New York Times or Wall Street Journal, whatever. And what he said is, I'm going to take off a piece of clothing for every woman that I funded this year. So he spends the rest of the video taking off his clothes. And he's in good shape. And it's like, this guy is wacky,
To both podcast watchers, we are now looking at a naked, hairy-chested Tim Draper.
Right, and this is one of the big backers. He's like, people going after Theranos or blah, blah, and he put hundreds of millions of dollars into the company. And just watching it all happen, I'm like, and then they had like, like Kissinger or some shit like that.
Yeah.
They had Mattis. They had all these non-doctor government types.
The weird thing wasn't she like the babysitter to one of them?
Yes.
There's a weird, that whole story is crazy.
Yeah. And like, and so I switched over from, I wish I could invest, fear of missing out, to, oh boy, first of all, I admire her for her moxie and her ability to fundraise and just the ability to, sometimes you see people who lie, right? And you're like, my God, you go from like thinking they're horrific to just like, wow, they are on. I kind of admire a good con artist.
Yeah, someone who can really personify the George Costanza. It is not a lie if you believe it's true.
Right?
I mean, George Shultz, William Perry, Sam Nunn, James Mattis, Kissinger, Frist. I mean, all of these. Bechtel, the head of the Bechtel group, the people who made all the missile silos for the country. Not a single, so there was Frist, but he was a U.S. senator for like 40 years. And then he was working probably with, you know, like dull scalpels and syringes the size of your forearm. So it's like,
Right.
you know, but yeah. Like I once saw Larry Ellison give a talk at like a Linux World in 2002. And he's like, we are the most important company in Linux. We've made Linux unbreakable. And I'm just like he's lying. He knows he's lying. He knows nobody's believing him. And he's managing to sell these dummies on his lie. It's kind of breathtakingly amazing, you know?
Yeah.
Well, and it's, you know, the whole idea of that technology working, it's just so beautiful. Like, it's so believable that we could do that. You know, you'd make tons of money.
Yeah.
It's the perfect lie for the time.
I mean, how else does the COVID vaccine get this reputation for having microscopic 5G, you know, Bill Gates chips? You know, people are ready, willing, and eager to believe that science has done things it has not done and will not do, maybe ever, for a very long time, right? Like, yeah. Anyway,
I wonder if that's kind of like I think about why, like, was in the like, okay, pre-Sputnik, the idea of putting something into space seems just as science fiction maybe as some of the things that we're talking about today. I wonder if, but like, you can, even if you don't have an understanding of physics, you can understand the idea of I shoot it up real high. But like the technical complexity to do what Theranos says they're going to do, or said they were going to do, like just the little things about how much blood you need for each of these tests, and if you could believe, like, and I only know this stuff from hindsight, but like if you can believe, like, okay, they were saying that they could do 50 tests or something, or like 30 tests out of like one drop, but like each of those tests requires more, so like you can understand, okay, maybe you can do it for 2 or 3 of those tests, but not for like all of those tests. And like, it's a brain breaker.
Especially things that, you know, like you have to spin blood down for, like blood counts and stuff like that, you know, like, so how are you doing that on a drop of blood?
Well, and the thing is, it's not inconsistent as an investment strategy, you know, if you're a VC or whatever, or you're funding scientific research, because suppose you can make lithium-ion batteries 30% more efficient or 50% more efficient, right? By experimenting with chemistries that people otherwise wouldn't bother with, right? For batteries. If you can do that, it changes everything, right? And so people get a little lost in, so if we change everything, think of the profits, think of the markets, think of the change, right? That we can make money off of. And someone like Elizabeth Holmes, she basically glommed onto that. She's like, I have already changed it. I'm talking about something in the present tense that's going to happen in the future, which is very common. And I'm the gal to do it. Now, the trick is she wasn't. She didn't have the background. She didn't bring in the people with the background. She brought in all these military types. She brought in all these, you know, jokers. And so that should have been the big warning sign. But yeah, no, I know people who passed on the investment in the venture community, and they're like, yeah, what it came down to is when we asked about the medical technology that they wanted to commercialize and develop, there was nothing there. So we didn't invest. And they looked pretty smart for not investing. Got to tell you that.
I mean, a lot of that is in hindsight, like today, and we're kind of maybe past it to a certain extent, but for like a 10-year window there was like a cult around like the co-founders, the Y Combinator success stories. You know, where you're investing in the team, not necessarily in the technology.
Oh, that's still
fail
true,
fast.
yeah.
All of those little mantras. But man, I don't know. It's a crazy story, and sadly, it doesn't involve enough Bigfoots.
Yeah, I mean that's a hell of a Bigfoot story. Now let's talk about
cougars.
Story, right? Big cats being kept in New York apartments. An 80-pound cougar was moved from a New York City apartment where she was being kept illegally as pets.
I have first question: was the apartment just for the cougar?
Well, I mean, given how expensive apartments are.
Well, that's why I'm saying, like, is it a rent-controlled apartment and the cougar is getting locked-in rent rates?
Yeah, I don't know.
That hardly seems fair.
Yeah.
Well, there was a great picture. And it was basically of the cop outside the window. And he's like, it's such a funny picture.
And
I think it was like on Reddit or something.
was this like, like a gang member status kind of thing? They just couldn't afford a tiger and was like, we'll get a cougar instead.
That's the normal story.
Or is this just some person who's like, hey, I think I want to own a puma?
It's 11 months old.
They bought it and screwed up. They bought it as a kitten, as a
Ming's
cougar
owner,
baby.
Antoine Yates, was arrested and sentenced to 5 months in prison.
Oh wow.
This was a different one.
Well, this one.
Yeah, I think we have to follow up and find out.
There's so many cougars being kept in New York City apartments.
Yeah.
This one looks like they got the kitten, they thought it was cute, and then when it got to 11 months, they're like, okay, we're throwing the towel in. It's destroyed all the furniture and ate 2 of our children.
Yeah, right?
Yeah, it's not
That's
the
crazy.
Tiger King on blue, it's the Kitty King.
Yeah. I mean, 11 months old, but they get big.
Yeah, they do.
Fast.
Well, all right, folks.
Well, I can't find the picture, but it's a great one. You should, if we find it.
Is it the one where it's like sad and in the passenger seat of a cop car?
No.
Oh.
No, it's a cop on a fire escape, looking in and going, yes, into the window.
They don't pay me enough for this.
Yeah, it's really true. That's very funny. Here. Let's see if Cougar. God knows.
Well.
Search for Cougar on Reddit. That's all I gotta say.
Yeah, don't look up cougars on Reddit. That's going to work out badly.
Oh, not as bad as you think. There's the Cougar car. There's a bunch of wild cougars. This is nice.
Oh.
I'm impressed.
Mom?
And with that,
note,
farewell, Rob Roseboom.
See you guys.
Goodbye, Chris DeBona.
I'll see you.
I was Rob Commander Taco Malda. Tomorrow night we're watching Turbo Kid. You should definitely join us. Bye.